Good evening and welcome. The time is now 6:02, and I would like to open the public portion of the July 24th, 2024 Richfield Park Board of Education meeting. Let's begin with a salute to the flag. Mr. Bisick, can you please read the Open Public Meetings Act?
The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice and to attend the meetings of the public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the Richfield Park Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, place therefor posted in a Bergen Record, Star Ledger, municipal buildings, Board of Education offices, and district website. Now, under participation instructions, public participation will be conducted both in person and virtually through Zoom. All public will be muted throughout the meeting. Public participation comments are limited to 5 minutes. The public will be able to both speak and be seen by the board when participating virtually or telephonically via Zoom. Individuals participating virtually that wish to make comments during the public participation will need to raise their hand by clicking the blue icon at the bottom of the Zoom window. Individuals participating by telephone that wish to make comments during the public participation will need to hit *9 on their telephone to raise their hand. The business administrator, board secretary will then unmute the individuals one at a time to speak in order that their hand was raised.
Thank you, Mr. Bisick. May I please have a roll call?
Yes, Mr. Cooney.
Yes.
Ms. Kraft.
Here.
Mr. Feitros.
Here.
Ms. McNeil.
Here.
Mr. Malul.
Here.
Ms. Rodriguez.
Here.
Ms. Schmidt.
Here.
Ms. Velez. Ms. Orth.
Here.
President Martinez.
Here. We have a quorum. We have a very light but consequential agenda for the evening. Tonight, we will be receiving updates from the superintendent's office, including student assessment data. We will have 3 public comment periods, 1 on agenda, 1 specific to the superintendent's contract, and 1 off agenda. We will then begin the board retreat portion of the meeting, during which time we will be presented with Dr. Vespignani's goals for the district, and the board will formulate its own governance goals for the upcoming year. And with that, superintendent's report.
Thank you, President Martinez, and good evening to our community and to the board. Pleased to share my superintendent's report. Just a few updates from the summer months. We have made a successful transition to our new central office location, being 65 Challenger Road. We're located in Suite 360. I want to ensure that members of the public or the community who may need to visit the board office have the appropriate address. Special thanks to Mr. Bisick and his team, in particular, Mr. Ego, our new district operations manager, has done really an incredible job moving approximately 20 staff members from various locations throughout the district into one location is no small task. So thank you to Mr. Ego, to our technology team, as well as to our maintenance team as well. It's been a real team effort, and it's been great. And we're looking forward to working out of one location and maintaining district operations at a very high level. A very brief update on facilities. Here at the junior senior high school, we have many projects that have launched. Notably, we have our new performance or fitness center, which has started in the auxiliary gym. HVAC continues to be implemented. Work was being started on our new wellness center, and the patio will begin very shortly. And across the district as a whole, of course, the standard summer cleaning and maintenance that occurs is ongoing. Our summer programs being our Summer Academy, Credit Recovery. In particular, thank you to Ms. Triglia for her oversight of these programs and making sure that they launch successfully. And of course, our ESY program, led by our Special Services Administration, all are going extremely well. Wanted to note that our new substitute vendor, EduStaff, is in the process of transitioning on our district subs. Our community should be seeing some signs and banners to promote and recruit new subs to the district. So that process is going very well so far. And I just wanted to know on agenda, my contract is up for approval, and I just wanted to extend my immeasurable thanks and gratitude to the board and to our state monitor, Mr. Egan, for consideration to continue to lead this fine district, not for the next 2 years, but now for potentially a new 5 years. I'm certain with the team that we have developed over the past year and the existing team that we've had in place is really on the right course to do wonderful things, not only for the student experience, but for ultimately student performance. So I just wanted to extend my thanks for the consideration. On the agenda, we have one data presentation being the NJGPA and access. You may recall, the board may recall that last year this presentation was completed in September. At that time, we were still going through the process over the summer months and putting in team members, in particular our Assistant Superintendent of Schools, Ms. Triglia, who will now be presenting in July, which is great because we have more time to review the data and keep the board and community informed. And I'm very much looking forward to the presentation, so I'll turn it over to Ms. Triglia. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Tonight I will be presenting on the NJGPA and the access. The NJGPA determines graduation readiness for students in grade 11 for ELA and mathematics. The ELA portion is aligned to grade 10 standards, and the math portion is aligned to Algebra 1 and Geometry. For students who do not meet the required score for NJGPA, as this is a required graduation pathway, they have the opportunity to retake it the following year, or they're able to take something like the AccuPlacer or other state-approved pathways to meet the graduation requirement as a second step. And if that is not something they can do, then they can do a portfolio appeal as well. The levels for NJGPA are simply graduation ready or not yet graduation ready. Any student who scored a 725 and above in both the math and ELA are considered graduation ready. Our participation numbers are 99% for both math and ELA. We had a total number of 233 students and 232 students who took the assessment. In the district for ELA, we are at 76.3% graduation ready in comparison to the state, which is at 81.6%. In mathematics, we're at 54.3%, right in line with the state at 54.7%. This information is just what I shared with you in a graph form, so you can see where we are in comparison to the state. This next slide is a comparison of NJGPA from spring 22, spring 23, and spring 24 for ELA. As you may recall, or you may not know, in spring 2022, this was the first year that it was introduced. It did not count, so you'll see that the scores were a little bit lower. This was the first time that these students were taking this assessment. The next year, we saw a significant increase, and we pretty much stayed the same the following year. In math, our first year, we were at 38%. Our second year, we went to 39%. And we're happy to see that even though we're at 54.3% and right in line with the state, we had a significant increase between the spring 2023 and spring 2024 in our math scores. Again, this is the information presented in the same way for that you just saw in the graph, just in this way. So we were at 37, 78, 76 for ELA over the past 3 years, and the same for math, 38, 39, and 54. Again, this is just in a bar graph form for you for mathematics and ELA. This is our demographic data for spring 2024. As you can see, we're comparing, I'm sorry. For our first bar graph is our ELA, and our second bar graph is mathematics and how the students performed per the demographic and subgroup in ELA and math. So our students, for example, our female population scored 84.1% in ELA, graduation ready, in comparison to the males who are at 67%. And so this information kind of helps us gauge our subgroups and what areas might need some improvement or focusing on, and trying to understand why some groups might do better than others, or really focusing in on an area and saying, okay, which group of students might need support and why. And so this is why we study this information. This is a comparison between, this is just for ELA. The previous slide was a subgroup for math and ELA spring 24. This slide is comparing the demographics for just ELA in 22, 23, and 24. And again, just, I don't know if you remember, but this will be posted on the website for you to look at if you want to take time to see the numbers a little bit deeper. But just showing it now. And now this is the same for math. The 22 school year, 23 school year, and the 24 school year. Some of the things that we're doing for next steps to address proficiency is because our scores are low, typically when you're not hitting an 80% mark, you need to look at your core to determine if there's things that might be occurring there. So we are in the process of rewriting all of our core curriculum content areas: math, ELA, science, social studies. Math and ELA both have new standards for the 2024 school year. So really teachers are taking a deep dive into the standards, making sure that learning objectives are aligned to the standards, thinking about the scope and sequence of when different topics are being introduced, really looking at our data, determining areas that need most support, really being mindful of when it's being taught in the school year, how often we're revisiting those topics, the scaffold of the standards throughout the high school mathematics departments, ensuring that all of the standards are being explicitly taught and met. We're continuing the implementation of PLCs, really ensuring that common assessments are common assessments. We're thinking about how we're grading the students, ensuring that the grade books match from department to department or within one department, ensuring that there's the same number of quizzes and the same number of tests, and so that there's equity among how students are graded, thinking about participation and where that aligns with the grading and things of that sort. We're focusing in on planning engaging lessons for the students that target collaboration and communication among the students, so really more student-driven lessons where the teacher acts as a facilitator and the students dig into their learning and ask questions and are engaged. We're going to look for small group and individualized instruction at the high school level as well, ensuring that the teachers are differentiating their instruction and pulling groups of students to strengthen areas of weaknesses. And we're also continuing to strengthen our IR&S interventions and ensuring that there's follow through with the progress monitoring and conversations around what's working and what's not. Moving into the access, I don't know if we want to save questions for the end.
Yeah, I do have a question. How do I'm not in education except for here, but, and so I know that testing, I'm always told that testing is not everything, the scores are not everything. But how are you integrating this student assessment data with other measures of student achievement to really understand on a deep level where we have deficits? Because, we've seen presentations, our test scores have been bad for a long, long time. And I'm wondering how much of this last slide is our new initiatives and how much of it are things that we've tried before?
So curriculum overall in most districts, usually in the past was a compliance, check the box, we have curriculum and it's in place. But one of the things that we're really working towards in Fields Park is ensuring that the curriculum becomes a living, working document that teachers use as their pathway for instruction. So it's laying out the learning objectives, it's laying out the expectations, it's giving teachers insight into best instructional strategies for the unit. So although some of these things may have been happening in isolation in some classrooms, now we're really working towards ensuring that it's happening across the district and really keeping that consistency among the elementary buildings. So, if one building doing something really great in the instruction, now we're sharing that with other buildings and maybe they're doing something different. So really keeping that consistency with the curriculum and the assessments and ensuring that we're comparing apples to apples from one school to another versus, trying to wrap our heads around why maybe one school is doing better than another. There's conversations occurring in PLCs. We're really, last school year was getting the groundwork going and understanding what that was for. And this school year really is going to focus in on looking at the curriculum, looking at the pulse of how the students are doing within the units, addressing whether or not the students are grasping what's being taught, what needs to be revisited. And then in big picture saying, are we spending enough time? Are we not spending enough time? Or should we be revisiting where this is being taught in the school year and things of that sort? So it's really focusing in on the conversations around the teaching. In addition to that, it's also using multiple data points. It's hard to tell in the past. We're just getting bits of pieces of information of things that could have been done or maybe were done. But now with the consistency of admin being involved, learning walks and listening in, we're using benchmark data. We're taking that and we're not just using one form of data. We're looking at multiple data points and saying, does it match? Are we seeing what we should be seeing? Are the A's in the classroom matching what's happening on NJGPA or NJSLA? So, change takes time, but in really focusing in on these conversations, we're hoping to see that it may not be a new initiative, but there's the accountability piece and people asking questions and hoping for responses and teachers excited about being engaged in the conversation. We saw the curriculum writing. All the teachers were in the media center, working together, collaborating, asking questions, talking about, I do this in Algebra 1, what do you do in Algebra 2? And although it might happen during the school year, we're giving them that focused time to really have deep conversations about it. So we're hoping with all of these changes at the core, we'll start to see better scores at the core, and then IRNS focusing in on interventions and targeted, plans for students that will help as well.
And I guess a follow-up question. And you can answer this. I don't know if we're going to be asking teachers, asking more of teachers or asking them to work differently or kind of smarter in unison. And the follow-up question is, what type of support are we giving teachers in terms of supplies, equipment, training, so that they can get this done?
So I think it's not that we're asking more. I think we're just asking different questions. We're asking different things and posing our thought process of our expectations and what we hope to see. And so I think the teachers have always been really hardworking at what they do, but now the shift is changing to, how are we doing it? How are we gauging where we are? How are we communicating with our colleagues about the things that we're doing, and not so much in isolation? The principals are asking more questions. Maybe before it was everyone was kind of just gauging their own buildings and what to do, where now we have more collaboration among each other. We're bringing people together and talking more about things. So I don't necessarily know that we're asking more, we're just asking different things, and our expectations of what we hope to see are very clear. in our learning walks, the feedback that we give back to teachers, the good things we're seeing and the things that we would like to see more of. I just think maybe it's different conversations than maybe what were happening in the past, but it's hard to tell because we weren't really here for the past.
I know some of you have a finger on the trigger here, but my last question is, and my kids were lucky enough to have my wife, who was very much more attentive to the day-to-day. I looked at report cards and progress reports, but given that you're gonna have more access to data and more use of data, how are you integrating parents into the conversation so that they can follow along? And, I've had conversations with trustee Rodriguez and with trustee Kraft, where they have been able to track their kids' progress closer than I personally have ever. I'm hoping my wife has. But how are we integrating parents and teaching them how to use these have access to this data so they can do their own work at home?
I think as we have, Dr. Lee and I and the team, as we've dug into the things that we're seeing and learning about, those conversations come up too. Parent academies, right? So we did 3 this year. We saw one of the most successful was related to math and how to use the tools to support learning. And that was the biggest turnout we had. And I think as we gauge the community and the needs and the response that we get, we'll do better with knowing the supports that they need. We're talking about perhaps restructuring back to school night, even though it's very beginning conversations of what that could look like, and maybe it doesn't unfold there. It's leading into conversations of what supports do parents need. Genesis can be a little bit overwhelming, right? And that's where most of the information lives. So how do we respond to that and get parents to come and learn and sit through working sessions? So, it's a lot of things needed urgency, a lot of things needed attention, and we're working through those things as quickly as we can and focusing in on the things that we can. But knowing that we are coming up with plans to address those needs. We are thinking of how to get parents involved to ensure that they know where to go for grades, or even teachers before the parents get involved, making sure that their grading matches, or, if you have twins in 2 different algebra classes, and it's just a scenario, making sure that the experiences are the same and that the grade book matches. And so I don't know that that was happening in the past, but those are conversations that will be happening now, so that teachers are more equipped with how to tell their parents how their kids are doing.
I'd like to just share a few thoughts. Thank you, Dr. Martinez, for your thoughtful questions, and Ms. Triglia for your very thorough responses. I think it's also a matter of synergy. This past year, we've been able to accomplish synergy between various items, one of which has been alignment of district goals, but also with the district professional development plan, and then school-based plans and staff plans. Ms. Triglia had commented on the INRS. That's one of our district goals this year, maintaining our PLCs and expanding them and providing great supports for not only our teachers, but for our principals. Being able to not have these items fragmented and have them all interrelated, I think, is really critical. And it's also really a matter of just focusing on a few good things and saying no to everything else. In our profession, we become bombarded with try this and try that, many of which at a cost. But we're really just trying to maintain the basics and providing good supports for our staff members. So again, I think it's really a matter of synergy among all these items.
Just going back to what Ms. Triglia said, the Parent Academy, we had 3 very successful Parent Academy nights. The most successful one was the math night, but that was in collaboration with the math supervisor, not the math supervisor, the math coach, and also Ms. Rodriguez, which is the director of ESL and BSI. Sorry, what?
I think we have to talk into the front of the microphone. Yeah. Yeah.
Is it worse tonight than it usually is?
Yeah, there is you can hear it better than me. Yeah. So just, I guess, try to speak into the front of the microphone.
Okay, so access for ELS is the next part of this presentation, and this is for our ESL students who participate in this assessment. It's for students in grades K through 12 who are required to take this assessment. This helps us to address learning language proficiencies in both in speaking, writing, reading, and listening. To determine if students are, this access helps as one pathway to determine if students can exit English language services. In order to determine eligibility for exiting, a student must score a 4.5 and then other criteria in place as well. It also helps us determine the language proficiency and where a student is and what they're capable of doing. It helps with grading students who have, who are multilingual learners. So we know if they're just at the beginning stages of language proficiency, their grading expectations will be a little different. And this helps us gather that information. As I stated, they're assessed in listening, speaking, reading, and writing. The levels of proficiency range from a level 1 to a level 6 in all of those areas. And then there's a culminating score, and that's what is that 4.5 or higher, a composite proficiency level. And then in addition to, as I stated, that 4.5 is what's the first step needed to determine exit. And then we have benchmark assessments and recommendations and things like that. And any student who exits ESL is monitored for 2 years to ensure that they're continuing that success. And if for some reason we see that they're not, they can enter back into the program. This is just a breakdown of the levels. Again, this will be posted, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this slide, but level 1 is entering and level 6 is reaching. The way that we structure our ESL program in district is our students in grades K to 6, depending on the language they speak, may receive high intensity. The minimum amount of time for any ESL student, no matter the language they speak, is 40 minutes. If they're one of the students who need high intensity ESL, they'll get up to 80 minutes. Students are grouped according to grade bands and language proficiencies. So you can do kindergarten, grades 1 and 2 together, 3 through 5 together, and 6 through 8 together. In the high school, students have 84 minutes of high intensity English as a second language. There's an ESL 4 course of 42 minutes, and students are mainstreamed for content area classes. We had a total of 188 students participate in taking the access, so 100% proficiency, 100% participation, sorry. Here is just a comparison of where we were. You can see, as we said last year, our population of ESL students is growing. It's grown a significant amount over time. We started at 132 students in the 21-22 school year, and in the 23-24 school year, there was 188 students who took the assessment for various reasons. They didn't get a composite score. It might be due to exemptions in their IEP for certain portions of the assessment, for that matter. So that's why, although we had 188 students who took the assessment, 5 of them did not get a composite score because of IEP recommendations. And this is where our K-12 students fell. The asterisks are because the numbers of students in the level 5 and 6 is below 10. So we just, we don't report out on those students, but you'll see that the rest of the students, we have a good mix of where they land, with majority of students landing in that level 3, which means that they're close to exiting within the level 4.
So I just have a question on this. Do we have how many new students each year versus how many? Sorry.
So it's okay. On this slide, you'll see that in spring 22, we had 21 new students to the district. In spring 23, we had 24 new students to the district. And in spring 24, we had 26 new to the district. The 26 new to the district does not mean that they're all newcomers to the country. It could mean that they're students who transferred in with ESL services from other districts, or that they were newcomers. And of the 188 students who took the assessment, 18 hit that 4.5 proficiency mark and other criteria to exit the program.
And so what do we goal ourselves at for like what percent we're expecting to sort of graduate out of the access, have gotten the sufficient instruction that they've made sufficient progress?
I think it's hard to gauge to put a time limit on language proficiency. I think it ranges anywhere between mastery of language between 3 to 5 years. So it's a little difficult to say, you enter the ESL program and in 3 years you're out. Every child learns the language a little differently at their own pace. One of the things that we're introducing this year is it's called Elevation. It's just a monitoring system, but in addition, it offers can-do descriptors for teachers, for the gen ed area teachers, so that they're more aware of the way that they can challenge their students in the classroom based on where the students land in their language proficiencies.
So we should expect that these numbers will continue to stay high because someone who just entered the program is a 3, 5, 7 year.
I think one of the things that we can do to help determine that is dig into the data of how many are newcomers. I don't have that in this specific PowerPoint presentation, but if that was something of interest, we could, as long as the number is greater than 10, we can look at how many are new to the country with no language proficiency in English, and then see the growth between 1 year to the next. Even though they're not hitting that 4.5, they might be moving up levels a significant amount, but just not hitting that proficiency range just yet.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to make sure that we're allocating resources appropriately to them. So that's why I was trying to get my head around it.
I have a question. Sorry. I'm not sure if I misunderstood, but students get services depending on the language they speak or the level or the language level.
So one of the things we have to do is you've heard of the bilingual waiver, you've approved that in the past. And what that is if we have a cohort of students over 20 that speak one specific language, you have to either offer a bilingual course or other options. So those are the students. We have over 20 students who speak Spanish. The other languages in district don't have that number, so it's only our Spanish-speaking students who need high intensity. And that's why they'll get the 80 minutes, where other students will only have 40 minutes based on the language and what we have to give.
Slide 16, you had, it mentions the curriculum and how it will possibly include student learning objectives. But do you guys hear me? So taken into consideration the increased number of multilingual learners, does the current curriculum also include language objectives?
So one of the things we actually asked specific for this district were the can-do descriptors to be included in the curriculum, and as the curriculum is being written, for teachers to put some of those can-do descriptors in. In addition to that, we have the where you have to address how you're differentiating your instruction for subgroups, at-risk students, G&T, our multilingual learners, and our special ed population. So there is another portion in our curriculum dedicated for that as well.
Also, I'm just wondering if they're looking at the last slide, and I was just wondering, are there any other programs that would address the increase of MLs?
So as we had begun,
Other than pull out.
yes. So one of the things that we had talked about in our social justice committee was really thinking and digging deeper into how we're welcoming our ML students who are newcomers, and the way that we're addressing all of their needs, not just academics, but their social and emotional needs, and getting them entrenched into the building. And so that's part of the conversation. The supervisor of ESL and we met yesterday, and we were talking about, revisiting the resources that are being used for the ESL and streamlining that as well. So as we were allocating funds in Title III, we had that in mind, to really look at the resources and the materials that we're using in the pullout sessions. Eventually, I do believe that there is some push in for the high intensity as well. That was conversations that we were having. The ESL services for all students is pull out, and then the high intensity in some instances is push out.
So there is push in addition to the pullout.
Yes, and
Great.
we're looking to increase that more as we dig into that.
Can I just
Thank
ask,
you.
in terms of additional services for MLs, do we offer after-school activities as well for, because I know when I was in Garfield, there's a pretty significant population, and that program after school that they voluntarily participated in did a lot to integrate them into the school, to improve their language skills, just, you know, wanting to be there instead of having to be there.
So this year, we were awarded Title III immigrant funds. And with that, again, Susanna Rodriguez and I were talking about different ideas, and we were talking about creating maybe an ambassador group of students to help welcome our newcomers and, you know, how to get them involved. And so we beginning to have conversations about how we can support our multilingual learners and help them become accustomed to a new school, a new country, and all, you know, all of that comes with it in addition to the academics. Also, this school year and in the past, this is not something that we did, but the school, Ridgefield Park does, is offers after-school support for ESL students through Title III. And I can tell you a difference this school year for our summer program was typically in the past, all of our multilingual learners in K-6 were in one room. So there was, you know, 30, 40 kids in a room for the summer program, K through 6, and 2 teachers who would manage that. This year, the students that were in the summer program are taking part in an hour and 15 minutes of direct ESL instruction clustered by grade levels. So it's kindergarten, small group, getting an hour and 15 minutes. K2, 1, 2 students, small group, getting an hour and 15 minutes, and they're there from 9 to 12 like the other students. And when they're not getting the ESL support, they're in the classroom in a small group setting, getting math and ELA support, depending on when they're getting pulled.
So I have a question. So other than the shelter training, the shelter English instruction PD that will be offered in August, is there any other additional support that is provided to the teachers within the classroom? Because we've heard multiple times parents coming up to the meeting and saying that their child is used as a translator, you know, and also considering there's a possibly increase of class size. So I'm just thinking, you know, what other support will be provided to the teachers? And ultimately, the children will benefit from it, not only the MLs, but the general, all the children.
One of the things that Dr. V and I just recently spoke about was our learning walks are going to continue in the upcoming school year, and they're going to be more focused, and there's going to be look-fors, and they're going to be more focused with trend analysis and look-fors. And Susanna Rodriguez offered up that there are specific look-fors in the sheltered instruction training that occurred. So before we can address how we're going to support teachers, we really want to gauge what's happening in the classroom, make sure that what the training has taught our teachers is really being implemented in the classroom. And this isn't an I got you doing what you're supposed to do. It's, okay, we've provided the training. Are we seeing it? Are we not seeing it? If we're not, let's address it and see where the disconnect is and why we're not seeing it. So again, it's another focus. Lots of things needed attention and urgency. And as we're picking away, we're really trying to hone in on specific areas as best as we can. And that's why a lot of these things are continuing. We started the work. We know we're at the very beginning, and now we're going to, you know, we laid it, and now we're going to keep digging and raising that bar as best. And this slide just kind of talks about, again, continuing the parent advisory committee. Dr. V and Mr. Bisick managed to work in the budget to get 2 additional ESL teachers. We're doing the extended day in the summer ESL program, again, making it more targeted and, you know, small groups. The sheltered instruction is happening again this summer. We have about 23 teachers who will be trained again. So at this point, we've trained quite a bit of teachers over the past 3 years, and now you've been trained. We want to see it happening in the classroom as best as you can. And that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Triglia, for that, again, thorough report and sharing the data with the board and the community. Just a few important notes to highlight before I turn it over to any remaining questions from the board and ultimately the community. It's really great to see an immediate significant increase, approximately 14% in graduation readiness in mathematics. So I wanted to congratulate all of our faculty, staff, our supervisors and administrators for their hard work this past year. Really great to see that, and absolutely a foundation, a platform to build upon. And I think we're putting some really thoughtful programs and next steps to do that. And in terms of our MLs, with the growing population, again, putting in thoughtful programs, not only for our students, but also their families to ensure that we're building that home and school connection. So again, thank you, Ms. Triglia, for this report. I'm not sure if there's any remaining questions from the board.
I just have one question, I'm sorry, about the NJGPA. Obviously, there's still that percentage of students that don't pass this exam. Do we know, and I know that's not part of this presentation, what those remaining 14 or 15%, like how many of them actually made it to graduation, right? So last year, this year it's 23 and 45 that have work to do next year in order to make it to graduation. What is our graduation rate?
So Dr. V does report out on the graduation rate, and I think we were at like 99%. So the students are hitting the requirements through other pathways. So if they take the NJGPA, so this past school year, we presented like a brief one, I forget at what point, and those were the seniors who retook the NJGPA or needed to take it because they didn't take it at that point. And that data was presented. So ultimately, the students are meeting their graduation requirements, whether it's through the NJGPA or the second pathway. That is in that menu on this presentation.
I just wanted to point out, it's not that we're letting this 20% just not graduate.
No, one of the things that we did this school year was through title funds, we had the program that ran after school for the seniors who were at risk of not graduating, and they were able to get support and then take the AccuPlacer, which is a pathway, and were able to pass that way.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much to both of you. State Monitors Report.
Yes, I had the opportunity to review the entire agenda. I had the opportunity to talk with administration. And I think the district is doing a great job and moving in the right direction. As far as finances are concerned, we have enough money to get through for the whole year. And we've already been explained that some of the construction that's going on to make the buildings safer and improve them. And that's on schedule. Everything, in my opinion, is going in the right direction. So ends my report.
Thank you, Mr. Egan. Before we delve into public comments, as a board president and as a trustee for the past 7 years, I wish to share some thoughts about the current board and how extending the superintendent's contract at this critical time aligns perfectly with our collective mission. I will also allow time for everyone. How about this? Is it better? No, I think it's bigger. Yeah. Okay, I'll give it a minute. It's better? Okay. So I'll also ask that board members, before they take a vote today, take a couple of minutes to make a comment or any observations or thoughts you have on your vote. But first, I want to express my heartfelt gratitude to all the parents and citizens who for years, in fact, long before we all got on the board, were the driving force behind the recovery of our district. Even if some of you no longer attend in person or have not agreed with every decision we've made, your unwavering commitment has not been forgotten. You sacrificed many evenings to demand change, and your efforts have not been in vain. We also stand in deference to past boards that served during difficult years of financial stabilization. However, I want to make clear that over the past 12 months, this district has made an unprecedented leap forward. We have transitioned from survival with intermittent chaos to being on the brink, and I with much humility, I say brink, of becoming a genuinely thriving district. This is actually the most optimistic I've ever been during my tenure on the board, and this success is a testament to the power of voting and our collective efforts as a community. For those who do not know, the current board is made up of citizens who care deeply about this village and about the school system. If you look any of us up in our families, you'll see how much volunteerism each of our families have provided the village besides our current service. Some because they've been here for generations, some because they raised their kids here, and some of us because we know firsthand education allowed us to have the wonderful lives we now enjoy. And all of us because we demand the school district we paid for and that our children deserve. This is a very diverse board, but I can tell you that putting the needs of our students and teachers at the forefront of every single decision has in turn settled every single internal quarrel we've had and has consoled us when we've had to make tough or unpopular decisions. When you see uniformity up here, the agenda item was thoroughly vetted and is good. When you see what looks like stoicism in the face of someone upset at the board, it's because we've been fully briefed on the matter by the administration and are satisfied with their actions. On the rare occasion when you see disagreement, a trustee is expressing their honest beliefs. This board respects each other and the public we serve, and we trust the process. Among its accomplishments, this board has cultivated, perhaps the word forge is a better word, a positive working relationship with the state monitor. We respect the state's authority and Mr. Egan's expertise while firmly asserting that we know our community's needs best. Mr. Egan has been far from a pushover, but is currently satisfied with the board and the administration's performance. As a result, I'm confident that this 10-year state monitor chapter will soon end on a positive note. Last year, the board unanimously selected Dr. Vespignani to be the transformational leader for our district after a thorough, transparent, and impeachable search for a superintendent. Since then, with the board's support, he's assembled a fantastic team of educational professionals, each of whom has exceeded even his expectations and who have also meshed very well with the excellent existing administrators. Like him, when he came on board, even after being briefed about the work needed here, all have rolled up their sleeves and are excited to meet our challenges. I invite you to ask any administrator whether they think they're better off now than they were a year ago and why. During his short tenure with us, he has saved the district hundreds of thousands of dollars with no exaggeration. I could say millions if I included the potential problems he has helped the board prevent. Much has been recouped from correcting longstanding administrative, procedural, and facilities inefficiencies and neglect, some through thoughtful restructuring of departments and staff. This year's budget process was a collaborative and conservative process, securing buy-in from administrators, the board, and the state monitor well before the county approved it. Thanks to Dr. Vespignani's fair and methodical research decision-making process, this iteration of the board has not garnered any board-level grievances or lawsuits, and even eliminated some old ones. As a result, and this is really important for much more than financial reasons, our legal bills are half what they were the year before he got here. Going forward, Richfield Park will now seek to hire, reward, and promote only excellent educators. Those who do not like the elevated expectations would do well to move on, because we are no longer sacrificing our wealth and our children's education for the comfort of a few adults. Guided by his sharp vision of our needs, the board was also able to negotiate fiscally responsible but generous 5-year contracts with all of our unions. These contracts show that the board values our staff and wants stability, but also that there is much work to be done going forward. Most importantly, while all change is uncomfortable, everyone in the district knows, or at least they should know by now, that he, like this board, is fueled and focused on the goal of providing quality education to every single child who enters our school's doors. Under Dr. Vespignani's leadership, the administration is providing our teachers with targeted professional development, improved analysis of student data, as you just heard, and all of the resources and support our teachers might need for success without the distracting drama of the past. On the other hand, I know Richfield Park is a special place with outstanding teachers, parents, and children. It is why we have all fought to correct what is wrong. The board is fully aware that this contract presents Dr. Vespignani with a legacy-making opportunity. He is as lucky to have us as we are to have him, and the state monitor and the county superintendent agree. Opening and extending the superintendent's contract at this critical time will protect our hard-fought upward trajectory. In my opinion, the measure before this board is a win-win proposition and another step forward towards Richfield Park having the school system our children deserve. And finally, I'll say, as a Richfield Park resident, taxpayer, and parent, I want to thank each and every volunteer trustee on this current board for your hard work and diligence in getting us to this pivotal moment. None of you had anything personal to gain in running for the board, and we are all better because you stepped up. Thank you. And with that, I would like to open our public comments on agenda session. And given that we have only one agenda item, superintendent contract, you may comment now or during the follow-up hearing period as required by law immediately after this one. Do we have anybody to elevate? Okay. Going once? Okay. I'm going to close citizens' comments on agenda, but as required by law, we will now entertain a public hearing specifically on our plan to extend the superintendent's contract. And again, we would ask that you respect the generous 5-minute per person time period allowed. Have anybody to elevate now? And we're sure the portal is open, right? People can elevate. Okay. All right. Oh. Okay. Okay, I guess I will close that public hearing. There will also be an off-agenda comments period at the end. And we will now move to our agenda items. Trustee Velez, would you please move Personnel 1501?
I'm very happy to move agenda item 1501.
Second.
Given the significance of this vote, I would like to invite any trustee who would like to share their thoughts on this agenda item. Please do so now.
Dr. Martinez, may I speak?
Of course.
Thank you, Dr. Martinez. Thank you, everyone. This is my second term on the board, and I've had the privilege to work with 4 previous superintendents. And over the past year, Dr. Vespignani has by far exceeded my expectations. Over the past year, I've witnessed his work ethic, his fearless ability to make decisions based on the best interests of our children, his ability to problem solve, and his relentless pursuit to build a team that is grounded in the common interest of working hard to move the district forward and promote academic achievement. There's much work to do here in Ridgefield Park, and I believe strongly that Dr. V is a superintendent that will guide this district in the right direction. So I am proud to vote yes on tonight's agenda item.
Okay. Diane?
Thank you. I think that Dr. Martinez summed it up in a couple of pages where we stand on the superintendent contract. I think one of the things that this board has strived to do was bring stability to the district. And after a year of focus on our students and their achievement and not a whole host of ancillary issues, we can see Dr. Vespignani's commitment and his ability to be that leader that offers stability, which is why I also am supporting the opening of the contract and the approval of a 5-year contract with Dr. Vespignani. And many people will see that the salary is an increase, the salary is a right size, and then the out year increases are something that's fiscally responsible to this district and our continued fiscal responsibility going forward while we improve student achievement across the board. So I too will be voting yes.
Mr. Merlou, we'll go around. You'd like to go next?
In a move to show the cohesiveness of our board and a unanimous decision, I will support this, although I am somewhat concerned about a 5-year contract. I don't believe that any superintendent should get a 5-year contract after only 1 year here. However, so that our board stands as one, I will agree to vote yes for this, although I do in fact have concerns about a 5-year contract for only a 1-year tenured individual. Not a reflection on Dr. V. It doesn't matter who it is. It could be any superintendent. I don't believe that after 1 year, they should be given the opportunity to have a 5-year contract. However, our board, after all of the issues and problems that we've had in the past, needs to stand as one. So I will vote yes.
Trustee Schmidt?
I wholeheartedly support this contract. I breathe a sigh of relief that we're going to, sustain Dr. V for another 5 years. And I appreciate, being brought up to speed about things that occurred in the initial stage of issuing the first contract. And I myself had my reservations about the 5-year contract initially, but I feel very confident in approving this on the resolution tonight. And I think Dr. V is doing a great job. And it's been a great few months being a board member at this time.
Thank you, Trustee Schmidt. Ms. Velez? Trustee Velez?
A year ago, I took a chance and voted yes for Dr. Vespignani. And I'm very grateful that he has met and exceeded my expectations in bringing this district to the district that I have envisioned for the last 15 to 16 years. This is the way it should be ran, efficiently and amicably. Thank you so much. Yes, for me.
Trustee Rodriguez?
First of all, I just want to thank Dr. V for accepting this as an educator for over 23 years, and also having multiple children in district, out of district. We're very, very fortunate to have you here. This is my second term, but like everyone else here, we used to attend meetings prior to this, and some were more chaotic than others. So we have come a long way in 1 year. So just thank you for accepting this contract, because ultimately, you could have gone somewhere else. No, but I'm very happy that you chose to stay here in Richfield Park.
I disagree. We're a wonderful district. Trustee Orth?
I kind of want to echo a lot of what everyone has said. And I think it's important that this vote, this 5-year deal shows to everyone in district, both employees and community members, that our full faith is with Dr. Vespignani. And with all of the instability in the district over the last 10 years through the various administrators, I think it's important that he go into the next 5 years knowing that this board has his back, that we believe that he is the man for the job. And I think he's shown us that this year. I think that I know that my volunteerism over this past year versus my first 2 years on the board, I have a life again. And I'm not just talking about the meetings that had some craziness prior to his tenure. I'm talking about having unending subcommittee meetings and discussions and fires to put out that we should never have been involved in the first place. So to know that we have an administrator who is not just managing that, but leading the district forward through it, it is priceless to me personally. And I think we need to send that message to everyone in district that we were willing to do a 5-year deal with all of our employees. And this just gets us through and says to them, yep, this is the man in charge for the next, for the foreseeable future. And this is the way that we want this district moving.
Thank you. And Mr. Trustee Phytros?
Yes, well, thank you for letting me speak. I echo everybody's sentiments. I think Dr. Vespignani has done a great job. And I think opening up a 5-year contract and giving it to him is also a great choice. However, I just cannot support the financial piece of this. I think Dr. Vespignani knows how I feel about the job he's doing with respect to my evaluation. I think I'm very clear about that. However, coming from the other district in Little Ferry and us just negotiating all these other 5-year contracts in Richfield Park, the percentages are just a little out there. I have a district of my own that we have. It's just a little bit, the financial part is just a problem for me. I totally respect Dr. Vespignani and the job he's doing. I just can't support the financial part of it. But I think that Richfield Park is in great shape knowing that he'll be here for the next 5 years. So my vote is no. No to the financial piece, but I wish him all well, and I think that we have a great choice here. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Phytros. And Trustee Cooney, I'll give you the last word.
Thank you. I'll be very quick. I don't want to repeat what everyone else said, but I understand everyone's ideas, opinions. I'm very pleased that I was on the original committee when we were able to hire Dr. V, offer him, and he accepted to hire. And he has done nothing short of going above and beyond my expectations, much like Trustee Velez mentioned. Giving him this opportunity with the contract, I'm very comfortable with, and I will absolutely support it, because if he's not going to be here for 5 years, he would easily be somewhere else, and I'd rather have him here. So I absolutely support Dr. V and his team. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Cooney. Mr. Bison, can I have a roll call?
Mr. Cooney,
Yes.
Ms. Kraft,
Yes.
Mr. Phytros,
No.
Ms. McNeil,
Yes.
Mr. Malou,
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Ms. Schmidt,
Yes.
Ms. Velez,
Yes.
Ms. Orth,
Yes.
President Martinez.
Yes, and the resolution passes.
Thank you so much for this opportunity and entrusting the district in my hands for now the next 5 years. I came here a year ago, very eager to begin the work. And at that time, there were many, many vacancies and many tough decisions to make. And I'm very proud of the efforts that my team has made. It's been a real team effort. So I just wanted to recognize all of our administrative team, our incredibly dedicated faculty and staff. We have great kids here. This is a great community to serve, and I'm just immeasurably grateful to be able to do so now for the next 5 years. So I just wanted to say thank you again to the board, to our state fiscal monitor, Mr. Egan, with county superintendent's support. This means the world to me. I look forward to continuing to immerse myself and my family within the school community and the community at large. And I'm just super excited. Thank you so much. And I know that I've landed in a really great place. and with a really great board who asks tough questions, but important questions. And I really appreciate everyone's support on this. So thank you very, very much.
On behalf of the board, I'll shake.
Congratulations.
Okay, we will now listen to citizens' comments off agenda. Do we have anyone to elevate? No one, okay. Sorry. Okay, I guess I will close off agenda comments. The board will now take a brief 10-minute break to set up and prepare for work on district and board goals. We ask you who are online to please stay tuned. The show's not over. This next part of the meeting is very important. Thank you. Okay, welcome back, everybody. I think we're all here. Oh. Okay, we're not gonna start. We are now going to start the goal setting process for the district. We've attempted this in prior years. Last year, we were pretty successful at coming up with district goals and board goals that we adhered to and completed most, if not all. If I can have the next slide. The process last year started in October because of the obvious changes in personnel over the summer. So we started with goal setting, which was, if you look at the top left-hand part of the circle there, we started that in October. We developed action plans and discussed them among each other. And what Dr. Vespignani did very well in his district goals was reporting on progress throughout the school year. I'll be the first to take responsibility that as the board, with respect to the board goals, we did not give regular updates, although the vice president and myself are working very diligent behind the scenes to get many of them done along with the board members. And then recently, as recently as last week, we began our board evaluation process and the board self-evaluation process. And we are here again to set goals for next year. On the next slide, I'll give you a second to digest it, but I'll talk over it. We just want to make sure that as a board, we recognize the difference between district goals and board goals. The district goals are going to be presented by Dr. Vespignani, and they refer to things in program, instruction, staff, professional development, facilities, and finance. Those are not things that the board itself executes. That is the role of the superintendent and his staff. For board goals, what we're really talking about is ways to improve our process, our procedures, our ability to govern, our knowledge of school finance and school and education, for those of us who are not educators. So I want to make sure that when we go through the process, we help each other distinguish between these two goals because they can overlap at times, and they should overlap. And so with that introduction, I will give the microphone over to Dr. Vespignani for district goals.
Thank you, President Martinez. So this slide just presents some essential questions in regard to how we develop our district goals. And continuing with some essential questions on the next slide as well. These are our goals from this previous school year, and I'm pleased to share with the community, as was shared with the board as part of my annual review, all the goals were met. What we see on this slide are the 3 goals, but within each goal, there were several major activities in order to accomplish each of these larger goals. And here we have our 3 proposed district goals for the upcoming academic school year for 24-25. These goals were developed with my senior cabinet and have been shared with some administrators, and I'm pleased to be presenting them tonight to the board and to the community. It's important to note that these are still in draft form, being that they're proposed. Similar to last year, once we finalize these and receive some thoughts, I will formally recommend them on the next board meeting being August 28th for the board to adopt, in which case they would then be posted on our district website. The first goal is to support the academic, social, emotional, and behavioral needs of all students through a revised intervention and referral services process. Earlier, we heard from Ms. Triglia in the student data presentation, the importance of what we commonly refer to as INRS, Intervention and Referral Services. This past year, this was one of the major activities within the first goal. So this is a bit of an extension. It's important to note, the board and community may recall that this past year, the district went through the QSAC review with the county office, and in the area of instruction and program, INRS was a significant focus point with the ed data specialists from the county office. Apparently, this has been an area that has been problematic and ongoing. Thank you to Ms. Triglia for doing a significant amount of work already in this space. but there remains now the implementation phase. So some major activities within this goal may include a revision to the committee, placing principals in accordance with district policy more prominently enroll as the chair. So we have advised principals of this, and clearly principals need to be intimately involved as the chairperson of this committee, and this year they will be. We're looking at scheduling as a really important factor in terms of providing guidance to each school-based intervention and referral services team in terms of what intervention should look like by way of time. That will run for approximately 8 weeks. Scheduling in terms of meeting times with families to ensure that we have appropriate coverage for staff. And overall, a focus on the actual interventions that are being implemented by each INRS team. In terms of goal 2, to enhance community engagement and perception through a rebranding initiative. The focus here are potential major activities are several. First, we'll be looking at the mission statement, which I know the board is interested in on the board goal, so there'll be some synergy there as well. But the administration with staff and community and student input is very much interested as part of this rebranding to propose a new mission statement. We're looking at the website in terms of interfacing as well as providing good information to staff. Another major activity may include a more streamlined partnership with the village municipality to ensure that we have good alignment between activities, promotion of events, social media, making sure that community members are receiving good topical information on all of our school events as well as village events as well. We'll also be looking at the district logo. As an example, when folks may come to a meeting or anyone enters the junior senior high school, we not only have various color schemes, but we have various logos. So there are several different types of scarlets, being an example. There are, in some cases, RP in different forms. It's just not promoting the type of, branding and image that, at least in my experiences, districts commonly have. So we're going to be taking a look at the historical logo and some logos that we have in play now. I will also be looking at some things in terms of email signature lines and letterhead so that we have consistency across various schools and administrators as well. So I'm really excited about this goal. I think there's a lot of really great things that we can do. It's very topical as we're also going through facility upgrades with our performance center and wellness center and upgrades throughout the district with our marquees and signs. So this is, really an important area as we look to, do a bit of a rebranding and ensure that we're improving ultimately community engagement and strengthening positive perceptions. And lastly, goal 3 is to modernize the district technology infrastructure, allocating resources to support implementation of technology initiatives. As part of my annual review, we had good conversations being with the board about the need for a technology plan. So that each year we're not just making decisions, rather we have a 3 to potential 5-year technology plan. This would not only include the hardware devices and infrastructure, but also instruction, the type of technology that we're utilizing in the classroom by way of resources. So the major activities within this goal would be dispersed among those 3 areas to ensure that we're moving this goal forward. Similar to last year, after these are finalized and proposed and ultimately adopted by the board on an agenda, the board should then anticipate a document listing all of the major activities, including timelines, resources, constraints, and ultimately evidence to attain these goals. I'll again be providing updates to the board through the committee structures. We'll again do that in November, January, and March, as we had seen on a previous slide, and then ultimately a final conversation for part of my annual review. So I'm really excited about these goals. There's good rationale. I think they're balanced in terms of what we're trying to accomplish this school year with increasing student achievement, enhancing the district image, and ultimately the technology infrastructure. I'll turn it over to President Martinez. I'm not sure if we wanted to pause and have any questions at this point about district goals or move on.
I'd like to open it up to the board. Any questions on district goals? Clarifications you'd like?
I have one question on the first goal because it speaks to ensuring all students are prepared, but then sort of focuses on the INRS. In the specific parts that go up to this, are we also looking at things like HIB to make it a more welcoming social community that allows people to learn?
Well, I think, thank you for that question, trustee McNeil. I think it's important to note that INRS, although there's a significant focus on achievement, it also does cover areas such as attendance and things that are may be issues for individual students. So there are, although the focus is again on the academic, there are other areas that go into reasons why a staff member may recommend to the actual committee the need to support this student. That's why we included in the goal itself, the social, emotional, and behavioral needs as well. So specifically HIB, we have other processes and programs in place to analyze that data, but there may be some, it may transcend that on certain occasions. It is possible.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Can I ask, with respect to the prior year's goals, and the completion of them, well, completion in terms of completing, addressing them, do these goals go away or do they get pushed on as ongoing initiatives?
A little bit of both. Some of them I think we've accomplished and, they are set. Others will carry on. Again, an example of that is within the first goal from the previous year and the goal this year. One of the major activities within that first goal from 23-24 was a focus on creating an INRS process. And now this year, we're looking now to focus on the implementation of that. Another example would be in the previous year, the enhancement of facility operations. When we talk about rebranding and when we talk about technology infrastructure, although commonly we think of the physical component of facilities, technology is certainly a critical part of it as well. So I think it's a little bit of both. Some of the major activities have been completed, but others of them will certainly carry on.
So do either goal 2 or 3 include the website?
Yes, one thing that we're looking at and will be a major activity is the district website. So that may not necessarily mean that within this year we have a completely brand new website, but we'll absolutely be looking at options, formatting. We absolutely want to make it more user-friendly and easier to interface with. So we'll most likely be looking at other districts in terms of, websites that are high functioning in that regard. But yes, the short answer is that it will be one of the major activities within this goal.
Other questions on proposed district goals?
I guess this is a no-brainer, but like, we're not doing away with past logos, or I know we're looking at the old Scarlet Bird and we just have different versions of things, but we're not looking to kind of go in a totally different direction. I mean, we're the Scarlets. I know that's not changing, but like the bird we'll see the bird somewhere. We're not looking at, red is our color.
Yes, thank you for that question, Trustee Schmidt. Yes,
I
absolutely.
want to revamp the place, but
No, we're not looking to go in an entirely new direction. It's just a matter of I've seen at least 4 or 5 Scarlets in play, and we really want to focus on the history of the district. So most likely in September and October, we'll present to the board a little bit about that, just some historical work by way of yearbooks and the history. So we'll definitely be looking to maintain, but just focusing on one Scarlet, one RP, and maintaining a consistent color scheme.
Cleaning it up.
Yes.
Is that process going, well, let me ask, how will that process include input from students and, from students in the community?
I think the input from students will primarily come in terms of the mission statement. So we'd like to include them in regard to being able to contribute to that. So we have a few ideas that we're working on now, and we'll more formally present, by way of the major activities. But in terms of the logos, we had a meeting internally with some of our administrators, and we have a scarlet that is not only the historical one, but is one that is again in play now. So I don't necessarily think that at this point, we're going to want to pivot, and I think to Trustee Schmidt's question, look to receive input about which of those to use. I think we're in pretty good working space in terms of what the history tells us, and one of the scarlets that we have in play now.
Thank you. Okay, I will turn it over to Trustee Orth to review the results of our board self-evaluation.
Right, so
Sure. Before you start, I just want to give a little bit of a caveat that in prior years, we have had the assistance of the New Jersey School Boards Association in terms of doing this board retreat. And so just have a little patience with Michelle and I as we try to coordinate this portion of the meeting.
sorry, just give me 1 minute. I just forwarded it to the whole board. Okay, so the board completed a self-evaluation process. I think 7 or 8 of us participated in it. The first area was to look at what the board felt in 9 different categories, what the board felt was held the most value or importance to this board. The scale was from not important 1 up to vitally important 4. And as you can see in every single area, we were between very important and vitally important. The most important, what we considered to be the most important aspect was the superintendent board relationship. And everything there is between a 3.1, very important, to a 3.9, vitally important. So there was no area that this board felt was of insignificant value. Next slide. Okay. Then we looked at how we felt we did as a board in each of the same 9 areas: planning, policy, student achievement, finance, board operations, board performance, superintendent board relationship, staff relationship with the board, and community involvement. This was rated on a scale from 1 to 4 as well, 1 being unsatisfactory and 4 being commendable. Our areas of strength here were board performance and superintendent-board relationship. And areas of weakness were 2.4 in planning, and 2.8 in policy, and then finance and community relations both received a 2.9, which was not quite at the good range. So then I matched up where what we felt was of relative importance or of most importance against where our board evaluated the entire board in terms of each of the 9 areas to look for significant differences, right? So planning, like I said, we all felt that all 9 categories were of importance. And so I was looking for where we had the most shortfall there. The first was in planning, also in policy, student achievement, and finance, right? This was, so then I took a look at the comments, or a closer look at the comments for each of those areas that indicated that we maybe had some growth available to us. The first being the planning. Next slide. Summarizing the comments, the board members acknowledge that despite significant changes in personnel moves over the past year, the current leadership has done a satisfactory job with short-term planning and communication. However, there's a consensus on the need for initiating long-term district-wide planning and increasing public participation in the process. So that may be one area where we can improve. The next is in community relations. The current board is unified in its mission to, this is a summary of the comments that everybody made. Current board is unified in its mission to improve the educational experience for all students and taxpayers. However, there is a recognized need to enhance efforts in anticipating and addressing community issues and trends proactively to align district policies with evolving community expectations. The board is committed to listening to the community concerns, supporting them wherever possible, and promoting the good work of the board to foster stronger relationships and improve resource utilizations. Decisions made by trustees must prioritize the best interests of all students. So there's a summary of the student achievement comments. Optimism about the district's direction, especially focusing on student achievement, prioritize district-wide assessment of facilities and instructions, recognize need for better assessment and data gathering, an eagerness to continue the progress with the superintendent who has completed his first year. Improving student achievement remains a top priority for many members. So generally, that was the sense coming from the student achievement comments. In terms of policy, the board members emphasize the importance of respecting the boundaries between policymaking and day-to-day operations and commend current leadership for maintaining this balance. The board should focus on policymaking, allow administration to handle operations. While adhering to policies is crucial, ensuring they are suitable and supportive of district goals is equally important. Moving forward, the board should aim to enhance its understanding of district policies and critically evaluate state-imposed policies when necessary. Concerns about using policies to justify program cuts need addressing to support children's academic and social well-being. And then based on these and other comments throughout the self-evaluation, the board may need to review the roles of individual members and the superintendent, as well as the roles and responsibilities within the committee structure. And then the last area was finance. In general, significant progress made in line with aspirations with budgetary constraints, an appreciation for the transparency and involvement in the budgeting process, regular effective meetings between finance committee, superintendent, and BA, and a collective appreciation for the expertise and support of fellow trustees and the BA. Recognition of the need to improve understanding of financial reports by some members, and anticipation of continued learning and improvement in financial matters. So I think that may explain some of the reasons why finances were an area for growth, because it seems like while things have gotten a lot better, that we all could benefit from some additional information in terms of financial. So this was done in an effort to try and find a focus for next year's board goals, which I will gladly let Dr. Martinez take over.
Okay, thank you. Very nice job. And that was very difficult aggregating all that information. I went through it a couple of times and it was tough to get everybody to kind of, I guess, aggregate everybody's comments. So thank you, Trustee Orth, as always. Last year's board goals, I guess I'll report out what the goals were and how we did. The first goal was to develop a 90-day orientation plan for new members of the board. It was felt by many members that when we got on the board, we spent about 6 months just finding our way and being confused and not knowing the lingo and the terminology and not knowing where the resources are. And so spearheaded by Trustee Orth, we developed a 90-day orientation plan for new board members where we had links. We spent a very comprehensive slideshow, PowerPoint, that had links to NJ School Board's websites, to other additional trainings, and to expectations, to information about our bylaws. And that was sent out. This goal was partially achieved only because of scheduling conflicts. New trustees were not able to meet. You know, our dream was to have them be able to sit down with the BA and do a comprehensive Q&A, and then to sit down with the superintendent and also have a comprehensive Q&A about the state of the district. And that meeting was scheduled a couple of times, but schedules conflicted. But they were sent out a letter orienting them to board docs. And so I think that goal was partially achieved. We will continue to fine tune that packet for any incoming trustees in the future. The second goal was to engage in a review of the bylaws to ensure that our board meetings and board processes were running effectively and according to our bylaws. That goal was achieved. Trustee Orth sent out links to all of our bylaws. We divided them up for several people on the policy committee to review. And basically we review the policy and then we kind of think about, are we doing that in practice in our board meetings? That goal was achieved. I think there were about 3 or 4 areas that the policy committee will have to look at to see if we need to change the policy or do we need to change our procedures, practices. Thank you. Another one is to engage in professional development in support of district goals with specific programs to be determined. This was also partially achieved. Well, my dream was that I thought all board members should be taking all of their required trainings in the first year because by the time you get to finance, which I think was the 3rd year on the board, you're learning a bunch of things that you wish you would have known in the first year. But apparently school boards does not allow us to take these trainings ahead of time. Trustee Rodriguez has compiled a list of additional trainings that she's done on her own. And so we hope to do a better job of getting these trainings to all the board. One of the areas that was identified in this year's self-evaluation was the area of finance, people not being completely comfortable with school finance and looking over the financial records that are sent for our approval every year. So we're going to do a little bit of brainstorming as to how we can get us all up to speed, because most of us are not accountants, we're not BAs, and finance might not be our background. And the last area which we did not achieve or attempt, I think about halfway through the year, we realized that this was an assessment year for the administration, and that we would not be able to develop a mission statement, and impose it on the administration. And that should be a kind of ground up process, which Dr. Vespignani has spoken about. So the development of a new mission statement for the Richfield Park District was not achieved. And I think it's kind of deferred until the coming year. Okay, so my pointer finger is hurting. So some of the potential board goals for us to discuss now, we've kind of, again, diluted and kind of aggregated everybody's comments and have some ideas here for us to discuss. Now, I distinctly remember Matt Lee last year telling us that we should not be too lofty in board goals because this is a volunteer job, that we should pick 3 goals that we can stick to and that we can complete. Last year, we disagreed with him and we picked 4 and didn't achieve 1. So we're going to defer to his wisdom this year. And so I'll open up discussion on these 5 goals. One of them was a 5-year strategic plan. Now, some of us have gone to the training at school boards, and this is a very, very elaborate and kind of involved process. But I think Trustee McNeil has brought up many times that we need to have some sort of strategic plan going forward. In a conversation I had with Mr. Malul today, he brought up that that plan needs to take into account, the pillars of the school, so academia, finances, buildings and grounds, and personnel. And so that's one possible idea is for us to start developing either a 5-year strategic plan or a 3-year strategic plan. Another one is to increase community relations. An idea that was kind of tossed around is for us to have a series of town halls where the public can speak to the board in a kind of more relaxed environment where we don't have 5-minute time limits and we're allowed to answer and have dialogue and kind of do a little bit more listening than this kind of forum allows. Reconsidering the mission statement, which we've spoken about. I think we're at the point where the new administration has a good handle on not only what they got themselves into, but also what this district needs. And so we might be poised to have a mission statement to kind of steer us into the next couple of years. I think we need to have a commitment to achieving and continuing the 2023-24 goals. Policy is very important. This is a board that in the past has had a difficult time with, adhering to policy. We're getting much, much better. And so we need to continue with the other goals of educating new board members, following up on our bylaws, and continuing education. And I'll open it up at this point for any other suggestions that we should add to this list or any comments on the existing list.
I have a suggestion. Personally, I would like to see like a small group setting with Mr. Vicek to sort of go over not every line item of the budget, but maybe the big ticketed items or the wish list or, where we are at some point, like an LE, right? Give us a little LE as to where we are and, just I kind of want to understand a little bit more personally. So if I could meet with you or maybe do a little presentation to a group, or I don't know how that would work, but I would like to see that personally.
So
Thank you. Trustee Schmidt?
I was just gonna second what you said. We were supposed to have our meeting to get brought up to speed as a new board member, but it didn't occur due to a snow day. So that didn't happen. So maybe I would have been a little more, but yeah, it could be just, voluntary for whoever wants to attend, something like that. That would be helpful.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Rodriguez?
Now, is that for board members or also for the whole community? No, I understand their board goals, but these meetings will be open to the whole community? No?
The way I heard it was along the same lines of having a new board member orientation.
Correct.
That even existing board members who don't have a finance background who don't have a school finance background, which is kind of almost all of us,
It could be a lunch
To-
and learn.
to be able to sit and have a lunch and learn. That's what we'll call it.
I
Um,
think,
I,
I think it's a good time to point out, I'm sorry.
so also, I like the increase in community relations. The reason why I asked if this is open to the public, because, maybe we can have, a meeting, like, excuse me, various topics, like having, town hall meetings with different topics. One could be finance to understand the budget. Another one is policy, and based on the feedback from the board, we can probably embed a policy goal in community relationship to make sure that our policy are aligned with state standards, and also if our policy ultimately benefits our taxpayer and also our community children, as well as not the whole community as a whole. So, excuse me. So possibly having a town hall meeting with various topics.
So I'm hearing two different things. One is for us to learn internally so that we can function better as a board, so that when we get that massive packet of financial documents every month, that we're better able to read it. But you're also suggesting that as part of the community relations, that the town halls be topic specific for the public to learn more about.
That way we can increase public involvement.
Right.
And then have a goal for every single meeting,
Okay.
whether,
So-
sorry.
So I just want to point out that so for each of these goals, just like Dr. Vespignani did, there's these broad goals, and then we're going to work out an action plan, which includes 4 or 5 different things that we're going to do to make that goal. So that can certainly be one of them.
I would just like to chime in from sort of an overall perspective that the board goals are for the board to be able to accomplish. And community relations, in my opinion, it's important, but as you stated a couple times, we're all volunteers, unpaid volunteers that sit, and our job is to, we've been elected, our job is to assess what the superintendent who is charged with running the district, that he's doing it well. So we have these meetings every month, and the public is invited to come and speak whenever they want. And if we do a town hall type thing, we have to worry about sunshine. So, we've got sunshine here. I think the idea of us understanding the finances of the district better is definitely important. And even though I've been on the board, this is my 3rd year, there's still improvement there that I think we can see. And in NJSBA, the field service rep can do board's role in finance, board's role in budget development, and then potentially, we had a good budget presentation last year. I think that there is opportunity for us to learn a little bit more, like how much do we spend on multi-language students, because we saw tonight that that's a real issue with student achievement. How much do we spend on, just some of the bigger programs, and getting that as PD for this board, as opposed to hearing what the 5 people that might show up to a town hall think, because we've all been entrusted to look at this from a bit higher level. So I'm on for improving our understanding of finance and budget. The mission statement, which is a continuation, and some sort of start to the 5-year strategic plan, right? I don't think in 1 year we can develop a whole 5-year plan, but to start to outline what should we be looking at as part of that plan. That's what
Going back to what Dr. Martinez said, when you mentioned increasing community relation, you also mentioned the 5-minute, the town hall would give the opportunity to have community members to come here and not have a limited time to speak.
Yeah, so I think we're not ruling anything out here. Clearly, having improved community relations is something that was brought up in the comments that the board made about itself. So I don't think we're ruling anything out. We need to operationalize each one of these. And so that's what we'll be doing.
You have to understand too, the community are the ones that voted us in.
Yeah.
So we need to listen to them. So to dismiss them,
I am not dismissing them. I'm going to say, I'm not dismissing them. There's an opportunity once a month for them to come and they all have our emails. And we have to pick 3 goals that make us function better as a board.
Okay, so I've heard from both of you. Let me just open it up a little bit. Mr. Malooly?
After we talked today, as I was driving home, it became somewhat apparent in my head that the management classes that I took say that a 5-year strategic plan is good, but we shouldn't aim for that. We should have a 1-year, 3-year, and 5-year plan, because you're never going to achieve the 5 years unless you hit the first year and then 3 years and then 5 years. I think that if we plan accordingly, we can do a much better job. If we have a 1-year, what are our ultimate immediate needs, a 3-year plan like halfway through, and then 5 years, how have we done?
Another suggestion could be, did I cut somebody off?
Nope.
Instead of maybe having a town hall meeting, we could do quarterly newsletters. Just focusing on what we've done. We talked about how Dr. V had done certain things that we weren't aware of. I'm not on the general email, so I have no idea what goes on in the school, if we're open, we're closed, if this happened, if that happened. So I think we definitely need to let our community know what we're doing, because we're doing a lot of great things. So why not share it, right? So maybe a quarterly newsletter. It doesn't have to be too elaborate or anything too crazy, but just say, hey, this is what we accomplished in the first quarter. This is what we accomplished in the second quarter.
Thank you. Noted.
Is that something though that is encompassed by the district goal of, or the proposed district goal of the rebranding that I don't know.
So I have seen, when I was looking over board goals, there are some boards that have, a page on the website that just says board announcements, whether it's the next board meeting, some of the highlights or topics, some of the achievements district-wide, some photos or anything. That's a very light, like as Trustee Velez said, a very light newsletter that's actually a page on the website.
I guess I just wonder if that goes into running the district as opposed to administering the district, because I agree that the community should hear about what's happening in the schools. I don't know that it's the board that should put that out.
so maybe the community can hear what's happening within the board. So maybe a newsletter. Can we send out a newsletter? Or like the board president?
Yeah, well, that's the fine line that we'd have to ride, right? Is that if we bought new boilers, right? If we installed new boilers, it's not really the board that should be putting that out. It should come out from the website, from the administration. But I'll be honest with you, community relations, I think the main purpose of community relations for the board is for us to receive information and for the public to have more access to us. And so, again, how we operationalize it, let's not get caught up in the
So
minutia
what
today.
can we do to make sure we receive the information from the community? Because most often what I've noticed is that it's more like reactive, so I'm not sure if I'm making sense, but how can we give the community the information, provide the community the information, like what's going on?
So again, what's going on with the trustees, with the 10 of us? We can, right? There's not a lot going on with us. We can explore it, but I really don't want to get caught in the minutia of it. Like, we just need to have an intent. The intent that I'm hearing is that we're going to receive information. We're going to find ways to receive more information and give the public more access to us. That seems like a consensus on the board. And we're also talking about any type of board-related announcements, not the entire district, but board-related announcements, right? We're doing a retreat, we're going on to the school board's convention. We're thinking about this, like, we can have a light newsletter. And again, I don't want to operationalize it now because this is, like, you can say, watching somebody make sausage. This is not for us to operationalize, not like specifically what we're going to do. This is for us to come up with the intent. And so I'm hearing both sides. Similarly, you want to jump in?
I was just gonna say trustee McNeil is 100% correct. It's not our job to do some of this stuff. It could be one of our goals to see that it gets done, but it's not the board's position to do that. So one of our goals might be to enhance better information giving through websites, newsletters, et cetera. We're not doing it. It's one of the goals that we set for the board to have accomplished, but we should not be doing that.
Agreed. Trustee Cooney, were you going to add something?
Yeah, I actually agree with trustee Malou and trustee McNeil. Definitely need a better source of community relations, but driven more from a district standpoint, not from the board. I agree with that completely. I guess we're going to have to discuss this thoroughly before we figure it out, but that's why we're having this meeting now.
So we need to kind of settle on three general areas. So I'm hearing community relations being one of them. We need to work out the details of how much we're going to set up a situation where we could take in information and how much information we give out. The truth is the board is fairly, everybody breathe, everybody breathe. The board, in terms of what information we have to give out that is our board behavior, is kind of light. All right, so it's refocusing here. Thank you. Where were we? Okay. Do we need 5 minutes? Currently, I'm hearing, we need to work on community relations. Whether it's outgoing or ingoing, we'll settle that at a different forum. We need to work on a strategic plan. 5 years might be a little lofty, but beginning to think 1, 2, 3 years out is important. The mission statement is going to be integrated into Dr. Vespani's district goals. And we need to work on continuing education of trustees, with finance being a big area of weakness.
The mission statement isn't really that's not a district goal. That is one that is absolutely a board goal. Rewriting the mission statement is our goal, not the district goal.
So we keep that one here. How about what? I don't want to operationalize it, so yes, okay. So
now we're back at 4.
how do we feel about that?
Can I just make a comment? The calling finance a weakness, I don't know that it's a weakness. It's that obviously if you don't have a finance background, you're not going to know as much right off the bat. But I think it's also that in doing the evaluation, it was of high importance in this district. So because it's of such a high importance, it's not so great that, new board members don't get the finance component until their third year.
I was looking to highlight areas where we could possibly get a district goal. I didn't mean it as a weakness.
Committee is weak in what they're
Yeah,
doing, or
sorry.
that we are just not, equipped. A
That was-
lot of people on this board do have strong financial backgrounds, and thank God.
That was my word, because I was probably projecting, because that's not my strong suit. But thank you for the reframe, yes.
Dr. Martinez, is also the mission statement would fall under the 5-year strategic plan, would it not?
Sure, it could be the first year. It could be part of the first year's strategic plan. to
Yeah,
have the
thinking so
mission
we don't
statement
have to
done.
have 4, it would be part of the 5-year strategic plan.
Okay. So based on the data that was collected and the data that was presented by trustee Orth tonight, so the areas that the board as a whole found there was a need for improvement, or like the weakness is planning, community relations, and student achievement, correct?
Community relations was a 2-point differential between performance and relative importance.
So, but
So
I'm just.
that's one of the
but I'm
lowest.
Basically looking at the whole presentation that was presented. So, planning, community relations, and student achievement and policy were the 4 areas that you include in your presentation.
Yes.
Okay, so this is the board's presentation based on the data that was provided by all the trustees, correct? So can our board goals focus on the areas of weakness based on this presentation and the data, planning, community relations, student achievement, policy?
I think you need to roll up one more slide to the graph because that was just the summary of the comments. Relative importance is blue. And the board's evaluation of how we did is red. So
It's
the
red.
bigger the difference between the numbers,
Okay.
that's the bigger the
So-
gap
so we're-
between how we're doing and where we think we should focus our energy. Community relations is number 9. We think that relative importance of community relations is a 3.1. We
Fine.
rated ourselves a 2.9.
0.9.
So it's a 2/10 differential. Where if
Okay.
you look at planning, 3.5 is the importance.
And then 2.4
2.4 is how we
So
rated
based
ourselves.
on
So it's
the
a
data-
9-point
All right,
differential.
So based on the data, which are the top 3?
Let me just, because we're not gonna split hairs here, like this is not, we don't have to be this specific about it. Like broadly, these are the categories, and I think I'm gonna make, with all your permission, an executive decision and say, let's keep these here. Let Michelle and I try to operationalize these a bit and make them a little bit more specific, because some of these may not be that elaborate, and maybe we can do all 4. So with your permission, I'm gonna say, let's keep these on the table. Michelle and I are gonna produce a document that we'll present to the board well in advance of the meeting. This data was aggregated last night, after it was given to us on Monday, this morning,
This was aggregated today.
today. So
Sounds good.
let's sit
But-
with it a little bit more.
To answer your question, the differences, the largest areas were planning, policy was second. And then student achievement and finance were the next largest differences. Community relations is not one of the largest,
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
but community relations is one of the areas where we scored ourselves the lowest, right? But it also has the least significance to this board.
So I think the level of discussion here tells me that this needs to be developed a little bit more before we hand it out to the board. And so I'd like to,
Can I just ask, I kind of just want to point out that last, these 4 potential goals were what Rick and I talked about and discussed, having received this data Monday. So today, came up with these 3 or 4 goals as potential, but please notice there is that last. I think that you all need to think, like, is there something else that we didn't see that we missed? Because I don't think we should just settle on choosing 3 of these just because they're what Rick and I looked
No,
at.
I agree. One of the, based on the data, policy is one of the ones that we scored low on and policy is not here. So maybe looking at policy and ensuring that it's aligned to state standards and also supporting the whole community.
I would just point out that policy is bigger than just the state standards. And specifically, there was a really important comment in there that was that we cannot just look at what the state gives us and accepts it blindly.
100%.
I completely am with you on having, you guys take a look at it a little more and put something out, but I would strongly urge the 3 and not 4.
Any other comments or questions? Can I have a motion to close the meeting? Oh, no, we need to have, no, yeah, we have.
I make a motion? No?
Oh, I'm sorry, we need to have a comments off agenda period. Yeah, let's open up a comments off agenda period. Comments have been very light today. Do we have anybody to elevate? Are you sure the front doors are not locked? Okay, I will close off agenda, and I will now ask Mr. Cooney to give us a motion to close the meeting.
I make a
I'll make
motion.
Brian and Trustee Schmidt. All right, I assume all in favor.